2nd Ezra 16:38. As with a woman with child in her 9th month bringing forth her son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains encompass her womb, which pains when the child comes forth, they slack not a moment. Kohawa Yahweh, Bahashem Yahweh Shai, Bahashem Kakodash, double honors to the elders and apostles, a great millstone, and shalom unto you, shalom to the elder bishops. The water for you, brothers, the water for your diligence throughout all these years, you're worthy of the title. Shalom to the 144,000 men, the governing body that are pushing this word throughout the four corners of the earth as we speak. And shalom to the innumerable 1/3 who believe on the names of Yahweh, Yahweh Shai, in all truth and sincerity. That is the actual names of the Heavenly Father and His Son, and the only way to receive salvation is by knowing those names. I'm your brother Yazrael from the GMS Talents Camp, coming back at you here on my lunch break. Just trying to go live here to do this video, but of course, Satan's he's been active, messing with my feed, cutting my camera off. So this is being pre-recorded. I'm gonna put it back up. I brought this out. So the name of this lesson is "The Child's Head is Crowning." The child's head is crowning. All right, and we are in the last of the last days. All right, in these times. All right, and the Lord uses brilliant parables. All right, in the Bible pertaining to prophecy to give us an understanding, sometimes even in layman's terms. All right, of the urgency of the subject matter being spoken. And in this case, just like in most cases, end time prophecy. All right, so what we see going on in the world during this time is much like childbirth. All right, we're entering a time of extreme trauma, physically, emotionally, psychologically. All right, we're unlike when having a birth or giving birth. All right, the pains and the waves of contractions slack not a moment. All right, much like the civil unrest that's going on out here. All right, the World War III ramping up, the rumors of war that are being pushed out. Okay, as we see here, as this war just kicked off, with Iran and Israel going back and forth, and then America steps in, bombs 3 bases in Iran, and people thought it was on and popping, right? And Iran bombed the U.S. base in Qadar, all right? And then there was a so-called ceasefire, so people thought, okay, that it was over, all right? And then once again, Iran and Israel kicks back up, so it seemed to be subsided momentarily, all right? But here we are again. So again, this is much like contractions, all right? Because we know what, just like contractions, in these times, things are unpredictable. All right, and for the few Aquath out here that do tune in and listen to our lessons, all right, that have been with child, you can understand this parable very well. All right, they come and go, right? And that's what's happening out here. All right, so you're reaching the time limit of the full trimester, all right, in a sense where pretty much the womb can no longer hold the child and the crowning begins, all right? As the child moves down the birth canal, right? The mother experiences intense burning, all right? I think that's called the ring of fire, if I'm not mistaken. All right, as the tissue stretches from dilation. All right, and when it happens, she gets a strong urge to push. All right, along with extreme pressure. All right, in her lower area, the pelvic area. All right, and all these things, what do ultimately? They give a feeling of uncertainty. All right, and that's the state of the mind of the people today. All right, as these plagues start to take place, Matthew 24 calls it the beginning of woes. Acts 14:22 says, through much tribulation shall we enter into the kingdom. And that's what the world is experiencing right now. We're going through tribulation. All right, 2nd Ezra 4:40. And he answered me then and said, go thy way to a woman with child, and ask her when she saith, Salakia. He answered me and said, go thy way to a woman with child, and ask her when she has fulfilled her 9 months, if her womb may keep the birth any longer within her. Right. So you see these prophecies, all right, as we know, they happen in time and measure, one after another in its order. All right, so but we know that the child is not going to be fully brought forth, all right, being that World War III until what? The MOTB is implemented. All right, so these are the contractions that the world is going through right now. All right, but soon enough, we know that those angels are no longer going to be holding back those 4 winds that are spoken about in Revelations 7:1. And those winds meaning nuclear destruction. Okay, so we're experiencing the contractions right now, which comes in waves, up and down, right? So it goes on to say, 2nd Ezra 4:42, for like as a woman that travaileth maketh haste to escape the necessities of travail, even so do these places haste to deliver those things that are committed unto them. Right. So just as the men of the Lord, we're out here, we're making haste, doing our videos, making sure we're staying within the ministry and doing things all decently and in order, moving with haste and fear. All right. Making sure we're doing the work, keeping our garments clean. But at the same time, so are the heavens. All right. They're eager to return the souls that are ordained on through it. Through what? Judgments. Right. And that's a perfect parable of this present time when you really think about it. All right, 2 Ezra 15 states that wickedness has exceedingly polluted the whole earth, and our hurtful works are fulfilled. All right, so the kingdom is at hand. All right, and this crowning ceremony of the men of the Lord, that's what we're waiting for ultimately. To see how beautifully how the Lord lines these things up. All right, so as the baby is getting ready to crown and be brought forth, the kingdom ultimately, but we know the men of the Lord, there's a crowning ceremony that we're looking forward to. All right, that's getting ready to take place as well. All right, that's why Ecclesiastes 7 and 8 says what? Better is the end of a thing than the beginning thereof. And the patient spirit is better than a proud spirit, right? So as we see, we're at the end of this thing, man. We're at the end of this man's rulership. Barakatah Yahweh Bashem Yahushua, Job 14 and 5. Right? 2 Ezra 6 and 9. We're in the midst of World War III. All right, and the world is going through its birth pains right now. And we're coming into a time in pregnancy called, primal instinctive mindset, which is basically survival mode, right? Panic, doubt, detachment, right? Loss of trust in people is starting to sink in. And people are either two things as you see when you go out here on social media. They're either scared or they're upset. Why? Because they don't understand what's going on. And much like a woman giving birth, there's a sense of uncertainty of life that comes over her, right? Not knowing if she's going to live, right? Because she knows her life's going to change, all right? Or if she's going to end, or if her life's going to be over, all right? And because of that, this third woe basically is making people become more and more mentally and emotionally unstable. This is why Isaiah 33 is so important. And in fact, I'm going to grab that. Isaiah 33 and 6, and wisdom and knowledge shall be the stability of thy times and the strength of salvation. The fear of the Lord is your treasure. Right. This truth gives us comfort in these times of stress, pressure, and soon persecution. Why? Because much like a woman in labor, we wholeheartedly believe that our life is getting ready to change as well. We're going to be released from this flesh, all right, which brings death, all right, and be brought into what? Those new bodies. You see that? And live forever. That's going to be brought forth when Yahushua is brought here. And he's being summoned right now with the battles of war within the land. You see? So as America's military is entering over there to the Saudi regions, the Lord is preparing war. And all these things were prophesied. All right, when you go in Joel, matter of fact, I'm going to grab this in Joel 2 and 20. But I will remove far off from you the northern army, right, North America, and our army, and drive them into a land barren and desolate, with his face towards the east sea and his hinder part towards the utmost sea. Right, barren and desolate land is talking about Saudi Arabia, all right, over in that area. The east sea is talking about the Euphrates River, and the Lord dried that up for this very purpose. When you read, matter of fact, let me do that real quick. Revelation 16 and 12. And the sixth angel poured out its vial upon the river Euphrates, and the waters thereof were dried up. You see that? And we see that's already happened. Why, though? And it says that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Prepared for what? For World War III. Okay? Goes on to say the utmost sea, which is the Red Sea, right? The eastern shores, Saudi Arabia, Yemen, over in that area. Okay? Goes on, it says, and his stink shall come up, and his ill savor shall come up, because he has done great things, right? And this is the mindset, all right, of the king here, Babylon, aka Trump, all right? In certain circles, he's known as the king of Edom, proud and boastful, all right? Which is also spoken about in Daniel, the 7th chapter, that little horn, the mouth speaking great things, all right? He's ushering us into World War III. And this was all prophesied. All three wars were prophesied in the Bible. This is Revelations 11 and 14. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe cometh quickly. Right, so the Salakia. Yeah, right. So we know that the first woe was what? 1914, I want to say 1918 or 19. The second woe, which is talked about here, is 1939 to 1945. And here we are in the middle of 2025, and that third woe has already begun. Right? So Jeremiah said that the least of the flock was going to draw us out, and we see that's happening. We're being drawn out into this World War III. You see? But all this is due to pretty much, you know, the Lord talks about in Isaiah 46:10, declaring the end from the beginning. So the Lord wrote this movie, all right, and it's happening in the manner that he proposed that it would happen. Okay? And when you have understanding of this truth, it all makes sense. Okay, it will all resonate with you. Okay, this is Revelation 13:11. And I beheld another beast coming up from out of the sea. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon. All right, so these two horns here are the political system, all right, Babylon the Great. All right, now whether they be Democrat or Republican, today they were Palladian, or in the ancient days, they were the Palladian and patricians, all right, the ancient Roman Empire. All right, but nevertheless, all right, war is inevitable, okay? So now we know before Trump ascended into office, what did he coin himself as, or was coined as? The anti-war president, right? Speaking as a lamb with words of peace. And yet here he is in office, and here we are today in the midst of World War III, speaking as a dragon, proud, right? So we know that this man was chosen through the strength and power of Yahweh Shem Yahushua to stir the pot of war between the nations, okay? Isaiah 13:4 says, the noise of a multitude in the mountains, mountain means governments, like as a great people, a tumultuous noise of kingdoms of nations gathered together. The Lord of hosts mustereth the host of the battle. You see that? So as I said, going back to Isaiah 46:10, the Lord declared that this was happening. And it's happening in the exact order and the way that he wants it to. Jeremiah 50:22 states that the sound of battle and destruction is in the land here. All right, and both Isaiah and Jeremiah both saw the same vision of the destruction of America and Israel. All right, which these two nations are the common denominator, all right, in this World War III. And Americans are losing it. Why? Because they see Israel's ushering them right into World War III, just as prophesied, only to be utterly and totally destroyed by thermonuclear fire. As a matter of fact, let me grab it. This is Jeremiah 50:45. Therefore, hear ye the counsel of the Lord that he has taken against Babylon. Right, which come from where? Who gives the counsel? All right, that's the prophets, the men of the Lord that are out here, starting with our head apostles. All right, Proverbs, the first chapter goes into that. All right, wisdom crieth, utters her voice in the streets. Right, goes on to say, and his purpose, right, meaning this is what the Lord proposed. This is what he'd written before the foundations of the earth were created for this to happen. That he has proposed against the land of the Chaldeans, right? That's talking about America here, chiefly the elites, all right? The Democratic Party, you know, and you know, all of its sorcery, right? Says, surely the least, here's the point, surely the least of the flock shall draw them out. Surely he shall make their habitation desolate with them. Right, so Israel being the least of the flock, drawing us out into World War III, along with all the other nations, just as we just read. All right, to make what? America desolate with Israel. All right, so these JOOs are in the land right now. These are Amalekites. These aren't the real people of the book. All right, this is Esau, Edom's head tribe, all right, who's sitting in the ruler seat. Okay, and the Lord spoke about that he would be in the ruler seat. Matter of fact, let me grab this in Numbers 24:20. And when he looked upon Amalek, he took up this parable and said, Amalek was the first of the nations. Why was he the first of the nations? Because he was the first nation that went to battle with us or went to war with us. All right, we came out of Egypt. It says, but his latter end shall be that he shall perish forever. You see this? You see that? And that's what's happening. All right, so as I said, this is a twofold scripture. All right, we were the first ones that fought against him when he came out, but secondly, also that he is in rulership right now. He is the head tribe. He is the first. You see? So now we're in that time here where this man is being brought down. Obadiah 1:1 says, the vision of Obadiah. Thus saith the Lord concerning Edom, we have heard a rumor from the Lord, an ambassador is sent among the heathen. Arise ye and let us rise up against her in battle. Right. So this conflict, as it ensues, the nations are beginning to see who the real problem is and cancer is here on the earth, right? That has been here all along. Okay. Obadiah 1 and 2. Behold, I have made thee small amongst the heathens, thou art greatly despised. So Israel and America are two in the same. Same nation of people, one is just the head tribe over there in our land. All right, and the hatred of these two nations is being evident more and more. All right, so you have to understand the Lord is doing this for his own purpose. All right, Obadiah 1 and 3. The pride of thine heart hath deceived thee, thou that dwellest in the clefts of the rocks, whose habitation is high, that saith in his heart, who shall bring me down to the ground? Right. Going back to Daniel 7, speaking great things. Right? Proudful, boastful. Once you set those you went up, so-called went up into the space, you know, you built your aircrafts, were able to fly all over the world. Right? Goes on to say, though thou exalt thyself as the eagle, though thou set thy nest among the stars, then shall I bring thee down. And right, what's those nests primarily talking about? The satellites or the unicorns known in the Bible. All right, to survey the whole earth. All right, he put those up there being proud and boastful, but the Lord had him put those up there. That's why it says, thence will I bring thee down, because this word is being pushed through the internet and it's going all throughout the four corners of the earth. And when that happens, then this man's end shall come. So that's how he's being brought down first and foremost. So this man putting these satellites out here was a sign of his pride, not knowing that the Lord had him in a trick bag and made him do that for the Lord's purpose. And we are living in those times right now where this man is being brought down. All right, because when you have true understanding of the scriptures, you understand that once the real children of Israel back in that land, all right, you can read about that in Isaiah, the 2nd chapter, talks about the condition of the world and what it's going to be in. It says there will be no more war and all the world will know peace once the mountain or the government of Yahweh Shem Yahushua is established in that land again. Okay, and all the nations of the world are going to come up and they're going to learn righteousness. They're going to learn how to co-inhabit on this earth together. Okay, there will be no more poisons, no more sicknesses, no more GMOs. Everything will be ran in its order, and the world and the earth will bring forth its full fruit. You see? But there ain't a place you can go to here on the earth right now where things are not fucked up, excuse my French, because scripture talks about it as the judge of the rulers himself, so are the people. So the vibration that this man has put out here in the earth is war, death, destruction. He's that red horse in Revelations, the 6th chapter, where hell and death follows him. He brings hellish conditions and death wherever this man goes. The son of perdition is what the scriptures call him, because anything that he touches is death. You see? So the Lord has already set this man up for these people to ultimately destroy themselves. You see? So we're coming in that time of this great civil rest that's out here right now. These are labor pains that are only going to ensue as we go farther into what's happening already. Okay? And make no mistake about it, these sleeper cells that are here, they're getting ready to be activated, because we know, as I spoke about earlier, there is everything happens in steps and in measures. All right? And this child is going to be fully brought forth, this crowning, all right? This deliverance is going to be fully brought forth until when? Until the MOTB is established. All right, so with all these immigrants that are over here, these sleeper cells that are happening, that are here, that are getting ready to be activated. Why? Because a lot of them are from Iran and all these different countries. They need an event. Okay? This is that peace and safety. When they shall say peace and safety, but sudden destruction shall come upon them as a whirlwind. We're in peace and safety right now. But this man needs something to happen. So make no mistake about it. Something is getting ready to happen really bad here. On the level of 9/11 or way worse. All right? And with that, that's when they're going to come out causing all, because they're going to come out and say, we know what? We got immigrants coming here. We don't know who's who. So look, because this is already planned. We already have the solution. We just need a black swan event. Once that happens, all right, we got to start chipping everybody. We don't know. That way we can keep track. We can survey people. Keep people under surveillance. We'll understand who is who belongs here, who doesn't. And people are going to be lined up left and right to take that chip. And once that happens, once that takes place, now World War III is going to be in full effect, and Yahweh Shai is going to pull up. And it's all over. All right? So when you read 2nd Ezra, the 15th chapter, as a matter of fact, we grab that in the GMT. These are the times we're in right now. The world and the people in it are doomed. The war that will bring destruction, the world that will bring destruction is very near, meaning World War III. Nations will arm themselves and fight against other nations. This will create great political turmoil with one group trying to overpower another and gain control while ignoring legitimate government. You see, sedition. There will no longer be free access to cities because martial law will ensue here, because the struggle of power will bring great destruction, terror, and total confusion wherever people live. Driven by famine and terrible sufferings, people will assault their neighbors and mercilessly plunder their possessions. So this is what's getting ready to happen. And through that, that's when the MOTB is going to be established. And that's the timeline we're in right now. This is why the baby is getting ready to crown. You see? Great travail is getting ready to take place. So again, going back to Isaiah 46:10, the Lord declared this to happen from the very beginning. All right, so anyway, look here, I got to go ahead and get back to work, but I pray this is edifying unto those who are to receive it. I'm going to say, call hello Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahushua, Bahashem, Kakwadash, Shalom.